Former U.S. Marshal Matthew Fogg joins me now with more insight into today's shooting. Welcome back to BNC.
Good to be with you.
We wish this was a rarity, but it's becoming the norm. 4 people hurt and yet another school shooting. Should something be done at this point on a federal level to protect students and staff?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there are all kinds of ways. Right now, there are more guns on the street. You got enough guns out here where every woman, man, child, and boy could have a gun, and you still got a surplus. That's how many guns on the streets of the United States. So, cat's already out the bag on that situation when you're talking about gun control. Only thing you can do now at this point is set up security operations at schools where you got metal detectors, people coming in, they're going to be checked. That's the only thing you can do, because you look at this situation. I mean, a young person just brings a gun, and on top of that, it's a 45. So that's that's a pretty big gun. I mean, powerful gun to be bringing into a school. It's difficult to try to figure out what angle unless you just beef up your security.
Yeah, wow, a 45. When we talk about this sort of being the new normal, I know that you said we may just have to put metal detectors in schools, but I want to talk a little bit about gun control measures. I mean, is this an issue so much deeper than what we're seeing happening in our schools?
Well, yeah, bottom line is through our, we talk about the National Rifle Association, and you talk about our congressional members and the right to bear arms and all of the various congressional issues around that subject. People want folks to have guns and say we have a right to protect ourselves. But now all of these streets really can't control who's going to have these guns. So the only thing you can is try to set up perimeters, try to set up situations where, just like you have at your U.S. capitals and all your government jobs and so forth, where metal detectors, people got to go through certain procedures in order to enter those properties. Same way it is with a school. I mean, the only way you can do this now is you're going to have metal detectors or some type of screening where kids' bags are going to be checked and make sure they're not carrying any type of weapon, especially a 45. Again, that's a pretty big, powerful gun, and you ask yourself, how in the world did this kid get a hold of a 45? But it can happen because of the fact that there's so many guns out there, and people, if somebody gets a hold, a kid gets a hold of one, he can bring it to school just like whatever.
And we're seeing these incidents in all different types of school districts, from affluent to small town to inner city. These incidents are not discriminating. What can the average person do? Those of us watching right now, what can we do to move forward some change?
Well, one of the things at home, if you got a gun, you got to make sure it's secure. If you got children around, you got to just do that. That's 100%. And then the only thing we can do is try to have more conversation about it with students, with kids. If you know there's a kid that's got some type of mental issues or is upset or whatever, make sure discussion is, do they have access to a gun? I mean, these are the things you can do other than, like I said, setting up your perimeters and setting up gun control measures where, they can't come into a place with a gun. But other than that, the cat's already out there on the numbers of guns on the streets of America, and it's just so many out there that it's easy to get a gun if you want a gun. So all you can do now is try to protect the location and try to make sure somebody's not bringing a gun into a location. And when you do that, you're talking about more security measures, which I'm sure parents are going to be happy to have, or they prefer security than losing their child.
Former U.S. Marshal Matthew Fogg, thank you so much for joining us here on BNC Live.